What's up guys, Wholesome Joe, back with another video. I'm going to show you how to split up a Power Rangers helmet in multiple parts so that you can print it on a smaller printer like an Ender 3 or any other printer that has a 200 to 220 millimeter print bed. Let's get into it. So you're going to need a piece of software called Meshmixer in order to do this. You can get it for absolutely free at the Autodesk website. I will put a link to that in the description so that you can download Meshmixer. Once you have Meshmixer installed, you're going to want to go ahead and open the STL for your 3D printed helmet. It can be a Power Rangers helmet, it can be a Star Wars helmet, it can be any kind of helmet that you have procured. You can get those all over the internet, Cults 3D. There are a lot of other vendors. Thingiverse has some for free. You can also go to some paid services like Etsy, Nico Industries. Shout out to my personal favorite, 3D Command Center. He has tons of Sentai and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers helmets, 3D files from all of the different series. So if you're looking for something specific or something unique, he probably has it. Highly recommend. So go ahead and open your file by clicking on that import button right there with the cross on it. I'm going to be using the Green Ranger, so I'm going to go ahead and open those files. So I'm using this particular version. There's a lot of different variants of the Green Ranger helmet out there, so use whatever you have. Mine is separated already in front and back. Most of these are, so especially if you get one from 3D Command Center, his are going to be front and back, and then he also includes a visor. This particular one is not 3D Command Center's model. I can't remember where I got this, but this is not his, but his is also very good. So we're going to start with the front piece. We're going to go ahead and open that. Meshmixer is going to do its thing, like so. Excellent. Now, now once that's open, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to come over here to the left, top left. You're going to click on this import button. And this is very important. This is where it gets kind of confusing. A lot of people mess up during this step, so listen very carefully. So when this box pops up, it's going to ask if you want to append or replace the file that's currently already loaded. We do not want to replace it. We want to append it. Very important. So click on the append button. That's going to open your file window back up again. Now we're going to choose the back half, which is going to now open. And if you did it correctly, you're going to have both sides of your helmet perfectly aligned with each other, loaded into Meshmixer. Now you're going to see this little object browser window over here to the left. This just shows you a list of each of the parts that you have loaded. You can turn the view off by toggling this little eyeball icon. We're going to leave them all selected right now, and then of course you can see when we change, it highlights a different part of the helmet. There are a couple of things we need to do before we can slice this up into pieces, and the first of those is, as you can see here, I have this loaded and it's showing up on a virtual print bed, as it were. So if you need to scale the helmet for some reason before you slice it, you're going to need to do that before you slice it. Because once you slice it, it'll be a pain and you won't ever be able to get it to work exactly right. So what you're going to do is select over in the object browser, hold down shift and click both of them so that both sides of the helmet are selected. And then you're going to want to come up here to this menu and choose transform. And then you're going to get all the options you need to resize the helmet. Now I like to do it by just typing in the numbers. You can use these little arrows in the center. I don't like using those, but you can use those. And then you want to click on this little box that says uniform scaling. And then hopefully you've already done your math on how to scale this, so you'll know exactly what to scale it to. And then you can just change these numbers accordingly, and that will scale your helmet. Click on accept, and then your helmet will be rescaled to the size that you've decided. I've already scaled this helmet to the size it needs to be, so I'm not going to do that. So we're going to hit cancel, and then we're going to come back here. The next thing we need to do, as like I said before, you notice there's this sort of virtual print bed here. So what you're going to want to do is go up to File, Preferences, click on the Printers tab when this window opens, and then you're going to go down and look in the printers list. I do not believe that the Ender 3 is a stock printer in Meshmixer, so you're going to have to add it. So to do that, you click on Add, which is going to bring this other box up. Type Creality in the box, or whatever you want it to be, Ender 3 or whatever printer you have. And then this is the part that's really the most important, is the print volume dimensions. In this case, I know that my print bed is going to be 220 by 220 by 220. I think the Ender 3's bed is actually 235, but you only get 220 millimeters of actual space. So we're going to leave it at that. And then you just click add. I've already added mine, so I'm not going to do that. So we're going to hit cancel, but that's how you do it. Make sure that this box is ticked for visible, and then click done, and then you're going to have your print bed so you can see how big your pieces are. So we're going to select everything again. We're going to come over to this menu on the left. We're going to choose edit. We're going to hit align. Why did it only collect both of them? And then click align, and then basically we're going to choose the source as the base point, world origin Y up, translate and rotate. We're just going to leave all that as default. We're going to hit accept. And now, once you have that, you're going to want to move your pieces to the base of the print bed so you can see how big they are, like so. I've already done it, so it looks like this. Now, there's a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when you're slicing this. So the biggest trick here is determining where to slice it. Now, there's a couple of things that I tend to look for when I'm doing this. One, I'm trying to cut it in as few pieces as possible, and I'm trying to cut it in a place where I'm going to have to do as little cleanup as possible, because you have to glue these pieces together after you've printed them, and that requires a lot of extra post processing work, and you want to make that the least amount possible when you can. Now, I can already see that the back piece will print as one piece, even on an Ender 3. So I don't need to actually cut the back piece. So I'm just going to hide it for now. Actually, we'll just get rid of it because we don't need it, because we don't have to cut it. So as long as you keep everything the same scale, then it really doesn't matter. So now that we have just the front half selected, where would make the most sense to cut this so that we only have to print this in the least amount of pieces possible with the least amount of post-processing work? So before we get to the actual cutting, I've already loaded up a pre-cut version of this file, and you see we have 3 pieces. I've separated in the top, the bottom, and the top back, if that's what you want to call it. Now you might have to cut this down one more time in order to get it to fit on your printer. I believe I printed this on my Ender 3 just like this, so hopefully that will work for you. So to do that, we're going to come over to edit on the left. We're going to choose plane cut, which is going to give you this flat sort of grid looking thing, and it basically separates the halves of the helmet. So the side that is lit up, that is active, is the side that we're going to be cutting. So basically, if you think about it this way, whatever is on the other half of this plane is going to get cut in half, and you can choose to either delete the other half or keep both halves and keep 2 pieces, which is what we're going to do. You can see these little transform arrows on the plane. This is what you're going to use to rotate it. So I can look and see that right here around the teeth area that I'm pointing my mouse at right now looks like a good flat area. There's not a lot of detail there, so that would be a pretty decent candidate for a place to cut this. So what I'm going to do is take this and rotate it a little bit, and then click on this blue arrow, and we've got our X, Y, and Z axis, and the blue one is going to be our Z axis. So we're going to Move it up until we get it kind of right into the little, right in that little groove there. As best you can. You can use your scroll wheel to zoom in so you can get nice and precise with it. See, I can see that it's not quite in there. Just a little bit more. A little bit more, probably right there. That might be too much. Let's go up just a smidgen. Right, nope, too much. That looks good. So we're gonna zoom back out. We'll come over to the plane cut options. You can see that we have the option to cut and discard half of it. We have the option to slice and keep both. So we're gonna choose slice and keep both. And then we're gonna leave that alone and we're gonna hit accept. Okay, now, once we do that, we need to choose separate shells. And then it's gonna separate those pieces. And now we have two separate pieces, like so. So now, what I'm going to do is come over to edit, transform, and get this one out of the way because we don't need it anymore because that's all we're going to cut it. You could come in and cut this down further if you need to. Just depends on whether or not this will fit on your print bed and how big or small you have scaled the helmet, but this should be fine for my case. Just get this out of the way and then we're going to hit accept. Then we're going to come back over to our original piece. Now this could possibly print just like this if you used a lot of supports and you oriented this different. So if I did it like this maybe and then moved it down like so, that could probably print just like that. It would use a lot of supports, but it would print just like that. We want to see how to cut this down even further. So I'm going to go to edit again, plane cut. This time we're going to make this plane vertical. And if you move the mouse just right and you kind of keep it to the outer side of the circle, you can make this plane rotate in snapped increments, so it'll, you know, like 90 degrees, 180 degrees, so you have a perfectly straight line. So we're gonna stop right there. Now we have our vertical line. Then I'm gonna use my, now this is saying this is the z-axis, I guess it is. Then we're going to come to about right there. I want to just get on the other side of those detail lines that are on the front of the helmet, because I don't want to cut those, like so. Zoom in to make sure you're on the other side of them. Looks like we can go a little bit further. Probably about right there. All right, and then we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna choose slice, keep both, hit accept, and then click on separate shells. And now we have two pieces, and then we can go to edit, transform, and move these apart. And as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3 pieces. Now that you have this all split up, how do you export it so that you can print it? So there's a couple of things you need to do, because once you start cutting things and making changes to it, you can run into some issues with problems with the mesh. So you're going to want to do this on all of these pieces, but what you're going to want to do, select each of the individual pieces. So we're going to start with this mouth section. We're going to go to analysis here down on the left. We're going to click on inspector, and we're going to click on auto repair all. And what that's going to do is fix any issues that there might be in this mesh created from us cutting it in half. So I'm gonna hit done. I'm gonna come to this piece. I'm gonna go to analysis, inspector. auto repair all, and then do the exact same thing to the last piece. Inspector, auto repair all, done. All right, so now we want to export. So I'm coming back to the mouth. I'm going to choose export. And then because we're 3D printing this, we're going to choose STL. I don't know if it matters whether you choose ASCII or binary. So I'm just going to choose the first one. And I'm going to save these on my desktop. And I'm going to choose green mouth, so I know what this is. Then I'm going to hit save. It's going to do its thing. And it should be saved now. There it is right there. greenmouth.stl. Alright, so then you're going to want to do that with all 3 of these pieces individually. And then the way you can test this is you can open up your slicing software. In this case, mine is going to be Cura. So we're going to wait for Cura to open. Cura is also free. If you're looking for slicing software, I highly recommend Cura, definitely for beginners. All right, so we're going to open this up. I have more than one printer, so I'm going to change mine to the Ender 3 so that we get that size print bed, like so. And then we're going to open up that model that we just created in Meshmixer, which is right there. Go ahead and load that. And then it's right over here. I'm going to move it back over to the print bed, like so. And I can see now that we're going to need to cut this one more time, because as you can see, it will not fit on the Ender 3 print bed. That's okay, part of the process. So we're going to come back to Meshmixer. We're going to come back to this particular piece right here, like so, and we're going to cut this one more time. So we're going to go to edit, plane cut. I'm going to move this over quite a bit, like so, and then we're going to change it. And then I think is going to be somewhere in between, right in between these teeth. We're not going to be able to get away with not getting in these teeth. Just kind of adjust it just as much as you can, like so. That looks pretty good. Gonna have a seam right there, but that won't be too hard to fix. And then, same as before, we're going to do keep both except separate shells. Now we have 2. Okay, so now we'll have to do the same process to each of these, right? Because there's 2 new pieces. So you're going to want to go to Analysis, Inspector, Auto Repair All. Same thing to the other side. Analysis, Inspector, Auto Repair All. And then you can export these. So I'm going to do the mouth. We're going to export this down here on the left. I'm just going to use the same file again because it didn't work. The first one didn't work. Okay, come back over to Cura. Let's open our newly created green mouth file. There we are, and you see now this will definitely print on the Ender 3. So how I would do this is probably like this. this. Yep, so it lays flat. Throw some supports underneath this mouth area and underneath the chin, and that'll print just like that. And then load all your other pieces in one by one and print each of them. And then once they all print, you can then use some super glue to glue all your pieces together. Use some spot putty Bondo to cover up your seams and do all your sanding just like you would normally, and you'll be good to go. It's a little extra work, or it's a lot of extra work. Let's just be honest. It's a lot of extra work in the post-processing stage. But if you have a small printer like an Ender 3, you can totally print helmets on it. I printed the first couple of helmets I ever made on my Ender 3, and if you looked at those helmets versus the ones that I printed on my bigger CR10, you would not know which is printed on which. Mostly because my post-processing work was really good, and so you can't tell where I fused everything together. Along with doing this, another good handy tool to have, and I think every 3D printer should just have one of these because it's good to have in your toolkit, is a 3D printing pen, which lets you kind of weld your seams together. So once you've glued this together with super glue, you can take your 3D printing pen and like sort of draw on a weld on the inside of your helmet to make it even stronger. I highly recommend doing that. So if you haven't gotten one of those, I will link one that I recommend in the description. I think it's good for everybody to have one of these if you're doing a lot of 3D printing, especially if you're making helmets or armor or other cosplay things. They come in super handy for doing welds and even cosmetic things because you can basically draw with it. Anyway, that's how you split up a helmet into multiple pieces so that you can print it on a small printer like an Ender 3. Let me know if this video helped you in the comments below. Make sure you smash the like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos and you don't want to miss out.